I'm not sure if you're aware, there was a big hoopla recently on Oprah's podcast doing a video on the trend of no contact. And if you're not on a certain kind of, profile slash FYP on TikTok, you may not have seen this, but it was actually a lot. It brought up a lot of feelings for people that no contact is actually not a trend. It's been happening forever, as I shared on a video there. I went no contact with my dad and I was 18. I wasn't in therapy. It was 1986. Nobody was making me do it. And I just didn't know what else to do because he was becoming so harmful in his behavior. And as I've shared at 23, when I was 23, he decided to not be here anymore. And so he did that. With my mom, it took till I was 50. I went through years of just this very intense and toxic trauma bond. And it was only when I finally realized that nothing was going to change and her behavior was getting worse. What I want to say about the no contact trend is I have personally never seen anyone just do it for no reason. I'm sure there are cases where that happens, but in my experience, clinically and personally, when we try to exit those relationships to save ourselves because all the boundaries, all the conversations, or whatever has happened has never worked, it is our last resort. And it should be, I think, a last resort to protect yourself. But there are many cases where you are literally putting yourself in harm's way because nothing's going to change. As I would share, I'd be sitting in my office with clients. I had 2 cell phones back in the day when my kids were younger as a therapist. So, I was the only parent. If the school called, I could glance down without interrupting the session. And my mom would just blast me with like the most harmful messages in the last couple of years. Like I'd just be in the middle of hearing someone discuss their life and pain. And all of a sudden, not only am I unfairly to the client transported, I'm being triggered. And my inner child is feeling shame, right? So yes, I could turn that off and boundaries and things like that. But when someone else has the power to do that to you and they won't stop, it's incredibly harmful. And I would just say that most therapists I know, none of us we should be telling anyone what to do. It should be a process of uncovering your stories and your life and figuring out what works, ideally trying to have conversations and set boundaries and then work towards low contact. If that doesn't work, right, depending upon your situation. And if it's abusive and you want to go straight to no contact, that is absolutely your right. But I wanted to just say that in my experience, that's been the case. And then I followed some of these women on this podcast that were saying that their kids had gone no contact for no reason. And I went in the comment section and one of them was calling her own children heartless and soulless. And it's just like, really, if that's how you're talking about your kids in a comment section with strangers on a social media post, I just can't imagine how you might have spoken to them, whether you realize it or not. So I wanted to go back and make this video again. This is a video I made a long time ago from this book. This is actually the book that helped me realize my mom had undiagnosed borderline and had no interest in changing. There are excellent treatments for borderline. And by the way, if you're BPD, you've received a borderline diagnosis and you have any traits of autism, it is worth exploring to see if it could be more autism, because that's often a situation and a case where clients, especially women and girls, have been diagnosed with borderline when they are autistic. You can also have both, but it does help understand and reframe the treatments and supports if you are leaning in the autistic campground over the borderline one. That's actually been researched. Okay, but this book is a very old book. I don't think it's in print anymore, but you can get copies of it, I think, online for free. But she talks about the ideal mother and variations in maternal functioning for parents who I would call maybe borderline, those who have narcissism or narcissistic traits, any kind of serious emotional immaturity that usually doesn't respond to help if they are refusing to get help and recognize what's going on. So I wanted to just share what she calls the ideal mother versus the borderline mother, but this could be any mother who struggles to be a safe source of attachment. Number 1, comforts her child. The ideal mother understands comforting and soothing her child and realizes that a child's unhappy emotions, even if they trigger ours, which they can, in that moment, we want to continue to go back to try to be aware of soothing them. My daughter will sometimes do this thing where she's like, stop therapizing me, like just comfort me. And I'm hugging her while I'm therapizing her, but she has to remind me sometimes because I want to fix it. The point is, I'm a very comforting mother, but sometimes that activation of me having no mother can get activated. And I just want to, talk about it. And sometimes she just doesn't want to talk about it. She just wants me to hold her and be there. And so I have to sometimes be reminded, but that's the thing. I'm trying to help many of these parents are, I do believe, not all of them, but many have good intentions. We're all going to screw up. We're all not going to get, each kid is different, what they need. But being able to have a dialogue about that is important. So the goal is to comfort your child, not to have your child comfort you. That's the difference. And the mother who has a struggle is going to be confusing. When you feel like it's your job to comfort them all the time, that's your role, that is confusing, and that is a role reversal. Number 2, apologizes for inappropriate behavior. So when I don't get something right, we want to say, you're right, I screwed up, I'm so sorry. Parents who struggle don't apologize. Parents who end up often with unhealthy relationships don't take accountability. They have excuses. They blame others. It's your fault as the child, even when you're an actual child or when you're the adult child. They don't know how to own their behavior and make repairs. I'm so sorry I hurt you. I didn't mean to, or I was angry at you, and that's why I said that, but I get that that was harmful, and so I will work on that, and I'm so sorry, and let's move forward. The ideal mother tries to take care of herself. And I say tries because I want to be an ideal mother, but none of us are perfect. But taking care of myself has been hard, being a single mom to 4 kids. And also, no one really took good care of me. And so I'm much more likely to neglect myself. So this is a goal, I would say, for most of us who have our own childhood trauma and wounds. But the mom who's unhealthy expects you to take care of them physically, mentally, and or emotionally. The ideal mother is proud of her child's accomplishments. It's not a threat to who they are. They're like, oh, you're prettier than I was, or smarter, or more successful. You know, you can see your kids as like shining. I always say that even for my kids in their relationships, when they're loved well, that makes me happy to have more people love them, not threatening. An ideal parent is going to encourage their child's independence. And this is hard. We can have these close bonds, and I've been separating and not separating from my kids for years. And it's okay to feel both without telling your child. Like, it's okay to be like, half of me doesn't want you to ever leave, and half of me wants you to spread your wings and fly. But what you convey to them has to be a balance that is focused on them. So many unhealthy parents will punish or discourage their child. They will not provide financial resources. Oh, I don't have the money for you to go to college. When they do, they just don't want you to leave. Or they'll have mental breakdowns and want you to take care of them and not let anybody else take care of them. They're going to discourage your ability to separate. The next one is, ideally, we want to build our children's self-esteem, not destroy it, denigrate it, harm it, be condescending, critical, in any way that causes pain and tries to chip away at your child's sense of confidence and self. Even if they're not going to do well at something, you can still encourage them to try, even if you think that's not in their wheelhouse. They don't need to hear that from you sometimes. The world is going to let them know. They need to have those bumpers in the world and make mistakes and figure it out. The next one is that we respond to our child's changing needs. Our child is not 7 for a lifetime. The way they need us in childhood changes over time, and that is a tough one, I know. But ideally, we want to help our children feel a sense of we're there for them. And unhealthy parents or harmful parents expect our child to only respond to their needs. They don't get to have needs. The parents' needs always come first. We want to calm and comfort our children, going back to what I said earlier, where parents who are harmful can be scary and frightening and upsetting. That is the hallmark of disorganized attachment, that the parents are a source of safety, they're a source of home and food and shelter, and also a source of fear. And moms who have untreated borderline, for example, are known to loom large in their child's face, loud, scary, yelling, that kind of thing. Even if they're yelling at the partner and not the child, that is still going to activate the nervous system and create fear and create predictions like the fish response, which we used to think of as fight or flight, but actually it's often more like can I move toward or away from mommy, like I talked about with ectothermic fish, where they cannot regulate their body temperature. The parent sets the temperature of our home. They are the caretakers of our nervous system, of our physical and mental and emotional safety. So parents will, we want to discipline or teach our children with logical consequences and conversations, whereas, parents who have these unhealthy dynamics will just intermittently punish or harshly punish punitively and without real awareness. It's very, very reactive. Parents who want to have a good relationship with their children will expect that their children will be loved by others, like I said, teachers, friends, family, boyfriends, girlfriends, partners, whoever they are. We want that for our kids. We're not hoarding their love in some way. My mom hoarded my love. With every child I had, she would act out at the hospital or otherwise. When I got married, everything was a threat to her abandonment. even though she didn't want to lose me, she would do things that were harmful that eventually resulted in that anyway. So these kind of parents will feel jealous and left out and controlling if someone else loves their child, even if they don't like them. You have to learn to set that aside, and it's tough. I get it. But your child shouldn't have to choose between their boyfriend and you. Healthy, ideal parents don't threaten abandonment. They don't threaten, I'm going to leave you, I'm never going to take care of you, I'm going to punish you, I'm going to abandon you. And parents who have an unhealthy sense of self will actually threaten, I'm going to kick you out. I'm not going to pay for this if you don't do what I want. They will use money and resources to punish the child. So it's financial abandonment or emotional abandonment or whatever. Parents who have a sense of idealness with their kids, they really believe in their heart that their kids are good people. And I always say, my kids have had a lot of trauma and they have their struggles, but at the core, I know their hearts are good and beautiful and pure. Even when I'm frustrated with them or they're frustrated with me, right? It's like deep inside, I know that. But if your child doesn't see that your eyes light up, that you believe that in their ultimate goodness, and you tell them otherwise, they're never going to believe that they are good and worthy. And so these kind of parents don't believe in that. And lastly, we want to learn to trust our kids, right? That they will figure it out. And this is so hard, especially for those of us who weren't well parented and we were on our own. We can have a tendency to want to hold them and fix them and take care of everything. But it is a process and it has to develop over time because when they're little, they can't be trusted to make all their own decisions, I don't think. But as they grow, we want to grow with them. Learn how that even sometimes when they make mistakes and it doesn't feel good and you think, God, I knew that was coming. I saw it coming. I always say with my kids, as they've gotten older, I know them. And if I just, at this age as young adults, the minute I say, no, don't do that. I don't for the most part now. It's like a guarantee they will do it. It's a guarantee it won't work. And so it's a balance of my perspective is this, but you have to know your kid. Some kids want you to help make decisions and they like those boundaries, but you have to know who your kids are and ultimately understand that as heartbreaking as it is, we are raising them to live without us. I had this really weird moment a couple weeks ago when I realized this is going to sound so sad, but I will never see my kids probably as old people, an old age, but that is how the world goes. But the goal is to hopefully get to be here long enough to watch them grow into old age and be here as a source of support as they do throughout the entire course of their lives, to no matter what, and all my imperfections and all of yours, I think our goal is for them to know that we are always a source of safety and love. And even when it's difficult, that ultimately they can trust us. Like we trust them, they can trust us to be safe and consistent as much as we can, right? Because life is hard, but the safe part shouldn't be debatable. That's different. And so ideal parents want to be a source of safety for their kids. So just want to remind people that people don't go no contact for the most part for no reason. I'm not saying in all cases, but there's usually a bunch of these things that happen again and again and again, not just in childhood. As people will say all the time in the comment sections, we can get over our childhoods. It's that you're still doing these things today in our adult lives, and you seem to refuse to change. So that's it. Thanks for being here. Have a beautiful day. Don't forget to follow me on Substack, Instagram, and TikTok. And I'll see you soon. Thanks for being here. Take good care.